It is member-supported Hawaii Public Radio and All Things Considered, coming up on September 27th. The Three Elements returning to the Aloha State at the Blaisdell Arena. Our very special guest and Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's Verdine White, legendary bassist of the band. Aloha, Verdine.
Afternoon. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Nice to hear your voice.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for having me.
Happy recent birthday wishes. I know that happened the other day.
Very much. Thank you.
Gotten to talk to you several times over the years. I was trying to think of some things to talk about that we've never discussed. One of those things in researching you was how your father's sax playing and musical connections, as well as your brothers Fred and Maurice's drum playing and love of music, factored into your own inspiration to be a musician.
Well, first of all, my idols were my brother and my father, and they were very great, wonderful people, and they helped me quite a bit, and we had a lot of music around the house. So my dad played sax, but he also was a doctor, too, a physician. So it was a good, well-rounded household, a lot of music, a lot of culture.
The double bass in your high school orchestra class became a critical discovery, it seems like.
Yeah, it was. I used to say I picked it, but now we know it picked me, and I loved the bass. I loved how tall it was and it was different, and I loved the sound of it.
Louis Satterfield, you've given him credit for teaching everything you learned about the bass. Explain.
Bass guitar player. First of all, Sat, we called him Sat. You know, he was a trombone player in the Phoenix Horns, and he taught me. He played on a lot of those hit records with Maurice at Chess Records. That's what he did, man, you know. When I was a teenager, Sunday for like almost 5 years. He taught me how to play in the studio. He gave me the concept of what bass guitar did. He taught me everything on bass guitar.
How old were you when this was happening?
Like 14, 15 years old, yeah.
He played trombone. He was part of the Phoenix Horns as well. So he was a multi-instrumentalist cat.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great background. And memories of playing in the Chicago club scene prior to joining Earth, Wind, and Fire on your own. What sticks out when you think of that?
What sticks out is that I was the youngest guy in that band at the time at the club scene, and I couldn't go downstairs. I had to stay upstairs. And I couldn't go to the bar. You know, that West stuck out to me. You know what I'm talking about? One
of the great things in your life must have been when your late great brother Maurice moved to Los Angeles, and then he made a subsequent call to you to join the band. Right. Do you remember him calling you?
Oh, yeah, he asked Steve. It was right after he left Ramsey.
Ramsey Lewis, who your brother had worked for.
It was 70, about maybe 3 or 4 weeks after he left Ramsey, and he called me and asked me that I want to come out to California. And I said, yeah. And I jumped at the chance, and he sent for me. He had a great experience. Kind of like going off to college, but the hippest college you could ever go to.
Right. That's a good description of it, too. And what kind of sounds, because it was such an innovative thing, it really hadn't been done before. What your brother was doing was so pioneering, it was like there wasn't a model to follow, if you will. What were some of the sounds or concepts he told you he wanted to do that excited you about it?
He was just doing it, and he would talk to me about it, and he just threw me in there, you know. Those were the first 2 records on Warner Brothers that we were doing at the time. And we had done the Sweet Sweetback Badass soundtrack. That was the beginnings of the concept of the sound.
Were you there when he came up with the name Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Yeah, I was there because the first original name was called the Salty Peppers.
Right.
And then he changed it according to his astrological, which had no water in it, had air in it.
Thinking about the pioneering aspect of the music, when you guys were gigging around in the beginning, it must have been challenging for the record label, even promoters sometimes, trying to figure out how to market the group.
It could have been, you know, forgetting I was still a teenager, so for me it was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Obviously for them, promoters, record companies, you know, Maurice probably obviously was very challenging for him, you know, because he was older and he was more on the front line of it.
You weren't thinking about those business considerations. You were just stoked to be out there.
Right, exactly. I didn't know anything about it.
What were some of the most unusual bills you remember?
Well, when the first one I would run out with people like War and Curtis Mayfield and Uriah Heep, Rod Stewart, the Eagles, Tower and Power. So we were doing bills like Weather Report, Stevie Wonder. We were doing stuff like that.
You mentioned Uriah Heep. Any other real rock ones that stick out as being an odd pairing?
That was, you know, those guys in the Eagles, those two.
Okay. You know? You still remember meeting Clive Davis at the Rockefeller Center performance, which resulted in that deal with CBS Columbia?
Right. We were opening up for John Sebastian, and Clive came to see John, and he saw us. And he came out to L.A. and auditioned us. And, yeah, of course. I still talk to Clive to this day. We're very close to this day.
That's incredible. And what a survivor, the two of you guys. I mean, it must be magic when you guys see each other or talk to each other because it's been...
Yeah, man.
There's an amazing show that you did in '74. It's not long after becoming part of the CBS Columbia family, and that was the couple 100,000 people at the Ontario Speedway Cal Jam '74.
California Jam.
Right.
It was in front of 250,000 people. And that was a groundbreaking thing for rock concerts. It was right after Woodstock. I think it was a big since after Woodstock for kids that don't know, you know. So, yeah, it was a big deal, man. It was a big deal.
A lot of people don't know about the way you guys crossed paths with Harvey Keitel in the film That's the Way of the World.
Right.
Can you explain how that came up?
That was Harvey's first movie, and that came up because we were doing this movie with Sig Shore, and Sig Shore had produced Superfly.
Unusual thing when you look back and you can see you guys on stage. There's some great concert scenes of you slamming on the bass in that thing. Mm-hmm. It's just hard to believe that there you guys are in a major motion picture.
Right.
And was that, Verdine, before the concert theatrics became a big part of the show? When did that stuff begin in terms of the floating piano, the drum kit, the vanishing acts? When did that stuff emerge, and whose idea was it to do it?
That came around 75, and Maurice, myself, Philip, we started sitting talking about how do we take the show up to the next level.
Doug Henning and David Copperfield, really famous magicians.
That's right, David Copperfield and Doug Henning.
How did they come to be involved?
Well, we met Doug at a theater. We started talking, and then he came up with an idea. You know, we were all creators together, you know.
Very creative thing, like the flying flying pyramid. Was that one of their ideas?
Yeah, but it was all our ideas, too, you know, because, you know, you have to have the artist to do it. You have to have the right artist to do it.
Loyal listener Steve sent me a review of your debut concert in Hawaii. Speaking of theatrics, it was...
I think that was at the... Waikiki Shell.
You got a great memory.
Yeah.
It was a benefit concert, too, for an environmental group. So here you were trying to do some good. Life of the Land was the group.
Right.
And it says you hit the stage with exploding flames and great deal of pyrotechnics. But it says one of the highlights of the show, Verdine, was when bass guitarist Verdine White was raised by a rope above the stage and performed his bass solo in midair. Tickets were $6 and $5. Boy, have things changed. Huh?
That's just the tax today on tickets.
Right. The African thumb piano, it has earned such a special spot, the kalimba in Earth, Wind, and Fire. How did that arrive to be part of the group?
Well, that was Maurice's thing. The thumb piano, he played that with Ramsey, you know.
Ramsey Lewis.
And that's how he got started with that.
There have been many times you guys have made it onto the screen in different ways or had your music used. How did you guys end up among the cast of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band?
George Martin put a sticker on it for that movie. And then he didn't have time to work with us. So we ended up doing the tune on our own and putting it in the movie.
You got to have the producer of the Beatles himself select you and then be a big part of the film.
Right.
An unusual gig that we've talked about before, but I didn't realize you had done it a couple times. You played at the White House for multiple presidents, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama.
We did for President Clinton at the end of his term, and then for Barack 5 times. So, our music has obviously transcended every generation.
And you played for the president 5 times? Is that what you said?
Well, we did his governor's ball. We did the Beverly Hilton. We did the Christmas in Washington. We did the Kennedy Center with him last year. So, in a nutshell, obviously the music has been very powerful.
Anything when you think about Hawaii and your long connection? I had an interesting thing said to me this morning, actually. Somebody was saying the same groups come back to Hawaii many, many times, and other bands will never play here. What was it you think that connected you so strongly with this audience that you've been back so many times?
I think it's a wonderful audience. The audience really connects with us. We connect with them, and we're going to come out there and rock it. And when we come to Hawaii in a few weeks, they're going to have a great time.
I look forward to it. Had a great time chatting with you backstage at the Blaisdell a few years ago when you were here. Crossing generations, as you pointed out. It's been so many decades. You incorporate so much into your set list. So we're really looking forward to it, Verdine. I appreciate you taking some time for me today here on member-supported Hawaii Public Radio. It's great to connect with you again.
I'm looking forward to it.
You be safe.
I'll see you when we get there.
Aloha, brother.
Aloha. Hi, this is Verdine White of Earth, Wind, and Fire, and you're right where you should be with man, David Lawrence.